Tonight we embark on a journey not to the land of dreams, but to the dust-choked roads of the Middle Ages. Imagine, if you will, the scent of wood smoke mingling with unwashed wool, the distant bray of a donkey, and the low murmur of countless footsteps. You're not just listening. You are there, feeling the grit beneath your worn leather boots, the chill morning air biting at your exposed skin. Ahead of you stretches a path fraught with peril, populated by bandits, disease, and the ever-present threat of a poorly constructed bridge. You probably won't survive this journey unscathed, let alone make it back with all your original teeth. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening, drop a comment with your location and what time it is for you right now. It's always fascinating to see where our sleepy, little community stretches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You've been walking for days, perhaps even weeks, the rhythmic creak of your staff against the dirt road a constant companion. Your muscles ache. Your stomach grumbles with a persistent low thrum, and the novelty of seeing new landscapes has long since worn off, replaced by a weary determination. You are a pilgrim, one of thousands, perhaps millions, who embarked on these epic journeys across medieval Europe and beyond. But you're not just seeking spiritual salvation or a cure for what ails you. You're also, perhaps surprisingly, on the hunt for something a little sheenier. As you trudge along, your gaze falls upon a fellow traveler up ahead, a stout man with a truly magnificent beard. Pinned to his grimy tunic, glinting in the faint sunlight, are a collection of small metallic objects. They're not jewels, nor are they coins. They are pilgrim badges, and they seem to be everywhere. On hats, on cloaks, even sewn onto the ragged hems of skirts. This isn't just a fashion statement, though some might argue it became one. This is something deeper, something embedded in the very fabric of medieval society. Historians still argue whether the earliest pilgrim badges were truly intended as religious souvenirs, or if they began as a more practical form of identification, a sort of medieval ID card that also subtly announced, "Hey, I survived that trip to Rome, and all I got was this lousy badge, and maybe some spiritual enlightenment." It's a good question, because while their spiritual significance is clear, their widespread adoption and the almost obsessive collecting of them suggests a more nuanced role. You might even call it a kind of medieval bragging rights system, long before social media invented the check-in. Imagine the scene. You arrive at a major shrine, let's say Santiago de Compostela, the supposed resting place of Saint James the Greater. The air is thick with the scent of incense, unwashed bodies, and perhaps a hint of something fermenting in a nearby tavern. After attending Mass, confessing your sins, and maybe saying a quick prayer for your aching feet, your next stop isn't always a hot bath. More often than not, it's a stall, bustling with vendors hawking these very badges. They come in all shapes and sizes, usually made of lead or a lead alloy, sometimes tin. You see shells for Santiago, vials for Canterbury holding a drop of St. Thomas Becket's blood, if you were lucky, or more likely, just some coloured water, and even little keys for Rome. The designs are often crude, stamped by hand, but each one tells a story. It's a physical testament to your journey, a tangible piece of your spiritual quest. And, let's be honest, it's also a way to show off a little, "Oh, this old thing, just picked it up after walking across half of France. No big deal." You might think that pilgrims, being on a solemn religious quest, would be above such materialistic displays. But that's where the medieval mind surprises us. Faith and practicality, piety and profit, spirituality and swagger, all mixed together in a delightful, slightly dusty stew. It's not just about what the badge represented, but where you got it, and what that journey entailed. Think of it as the original "I went to Paris," And all I got was this t-shirt mentality, except the t-shirt was made of questionable metal and might have given you lead poisoning. Fun. One mainstream historical fact about these badges is their sheer ubiquity. Tens of thousands have been found, often in rivers, lost by pilgrims either accidentally or intentionally. Rivers were particularly good for preserving them in the silt, almost like time capsules. It makes you wonder how many ended up at the bottom of a fast-flowing current, not because of an accident, but because a pilgrim had a particularly bad day and decided, you know what, this pilgrimage isn't worth it. And neither is this flimsy piece of metal. Or perhaps they just slipped off during a moment of desperate thirst, leaning over a river for a drink, and plop. Another badge for the archaeological record. Now, a quirky tidbit: some badges were designed to be almost interactive. Not like a smartphone, obviously, but they might have tiny hinges or rotating parts. Imagine a badge with a small, hinged lid that revealed a saint's face, or one that spun to show different aspects of a shrine. It's a small detail, but it speaks to a desire for something beyond a simple flat image. Perhaps it was meant to be a little fidget toy for those long, boring sermons. Or maybe, just maybe, it was the medieval equivalent of a pop-up book, providing a moment of simple delight on a very undelightful journey. The economic impact of these badges was also significant. The making and selling of pilgrim souvenirs supported entire industries around popular shrines. You had casters, engravers, vendors, and even badge doctors who might repair or polish your well-worn badge. It was a thriving market, fueled by devotion and the innate human desire for a keepsake. If you wanted to start a profitable business in the Middle Ages, opening a souvenir shop near a major pilgrimage site was probably a safer bet than, say, trying to invent indoor plumbing. Less chance of getting soaked, more chance of getting rich. As you keep walking, you can't help but notice the variety. Some badges are simple crosses, others intricate depictions of saints or miraculous events. You see one pilgrim with a badge depicting a ship, indicating a sea voyage to a far-off shrine, probably one of the more expensive and vomit-inducing ways to travel. Another has a small, almost comical rendering of a dragon, perhaps from a shrine associated with a local legend, or a saint who famously wrestled a mythical beast. It's a medieval I've been everywhere man collection, each piece a tiny trophy. The wear and tear on some of the badges tells its own story. Some are smooth and shiny from years of handling, almost like worry stones. Others are bent and scratched, suggesting a pilgrim who perhaps fell into a ditch or had a minor scuffle with a particularly aggressive goose. You chuckle to yourself, imagining the tale behind each dent and scrape. Was it a near-death experience, or just a clumsy moment while trying to butter a piece of stale bread with one hand? The imagination runs wild. The feeling of ownership and pride associated with these badges was palpable. When you returned home, these weren't just souvenirs, they were proof. Proof of your faith, your endurance, and your social standing. Displaying them was a public declaration of your piety, a testament to the fact that you had faced the perils of the road and returned victorious. It was a way to say, look at me. I walked to Rome and all I got was this profound spiritual experience and a slightly bent piece of lead. Worth it! And yet, despite their widespread use, not every pilgrim collected them. Some, perhaps the truly devout, focused solely on the spiritual aspect, seeing no need for material tokens. Others, perhaps the truly poor, couldn't afford them. And then there were those who simply lost them, or perhaps, in a fit of medieval nihilism, tossed them into a river because they'd had enough of the journey and its dusty, smelly realities. This is why archaeologists find so many of them in watery places. A lost badge often meant a discarded one. The idea of pilgrimage itself was a transformative experience. You left your familiar world, stepped out of your daily routine, and embarked on a journey into the unknown. The badges were a physical anchor to that experience, a way to remember the hardship, the camaraderie, and the moments of profound revelation. They were a memento mori of the road, a reminder that life was fleeting and that salvation often required a very long walk. As dusk begins to fall, painting the sky in hues of soft orange and purple, the gentle rhythm of your footsteps continues. The air cools, and a feeling of calm settles over you. You are part of this ancient tradition, a small dot in the vast tapestry of medieval travel. And as you consider the small, humble badges that tell such big stories, you feel a quiet appreciation for the ingenuity and the enduring spirit of those who walked these roads before you, collecting their little pieces of proof, one wary step at a time. The world of medieval pilgrims, it turns out, was far more complex and far more badge-obsessed than you might have ever imagined. The chill of the evening deepens, and you pull your rough wool cloak tighter around you. The path ahead is now a faint ribbon in the gathering gloom, but you're not alone. The murmuring voices of other pilgrims, the occasional cough, and the rhythmic thump of walking sticks against the earth provide a comforting soundtrack. You pass a small, makeshift fire where a few travelers huddle, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. The smell of burning wood, earthy and primal, hangs heavy in the air. You're reminded that despite the grand spiritual aims, pilgrimage was also very much about the practicalities of survival and the small comforts found along the way. One of the fascinating aspects of these pilgrim badges is not just what they were, but what they represented beyond the immediate souvenir. They served as a form of proof of travel, a medieval passport of sorts. Imagine arriving back in your home village after a year-long trek to Jerusalem. Your neighbors, who've barely ventured beyond the next market town, would be curious, perhaps even skeptical. "Oh, you went all the way to the Holy Land? Prove it!" And there on your hat, proudly displayed, would be the badge from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a tangible piece of evidence that you truly undertook that perilous journey. It's like returning from a gap year with a backpack full of obscure foreign currencies and a slightly bewildered expression. This proof wasn't just for showing off. It had real social and even legal implications. Pilgrimage was often undertaken as penance for sins, sometimes even as a sentence imposed by a court. If you were ordered to go on a pilgrimage as punishment for, say, stealing a neighbor's prize-winning pig, returning with the correct badge was vital. It proved you'd served your time, metaphorically speaking. Without it, you might find yourself back in the stocks, pondering the wisdom of pig napping. "No, really, I went! See, I have a tan line where the sun hit my face!" Wouldn't cut it. You needed the physical receipt. You see a group of pilgrims ahead, gathered around a small shrine dedicated to a local saint. They're kneeling, murmuring prayers, and you notice several of them are wearing the same, distinct badge, a simple cross with a stylized leaf pattern. This immediately tells you something. They've likely come from the same region, perhaps even the same town, and visited the same local holy site before embarking on this longer journey. The badges created instant connections, a sort of medieval social network. You didn't need to ask, "Where are you from?" You just looked at their lapel, or rather their cloak. One quirky tidbit about pilgrim badges is how they were sometimes used as amulets or charms. Beyond their role as mementos, people believed the badges themselves held a fragment of the holy power of the shrine they came from. A badge from the shrine of a healing saint might be pressed against an aching limb or hung over a child's crib to ward off illness. It's a beautiful blend of the spiritual and the superstitious, a very human desire to bring a piece of the sacred into everyday life. Imagine wearing a little piece of metal, believing it could protect you from the plague or a bad harvest. It's surprisingly comforting, even if it probably didn't do much against the actual plague. Historians still debate whether some badges were forged or sold by unscrupulous vendors who had never even been to the shrine they claimed to represent. Given the widespread demand and the often crude nature of the manufacturing, it's not hard to imagine a medieval con artist setting up shop on a busy trade route, selling authentic badges from distant lands without ever having left his village. Genuine Holy Sepulchre badge, just 10 coppers! Made right here in my backyard by me, with my own 2 hands. You'd have to be careful not to get swindled. Or you'd return home with a proof of travel that was about as authentic as a unicorn made of cheese. The quality of the badges varied wildly. Some were expertly cast, with clear details and smooth finishes. Others looked like they'd been squashed by a passing donkey, or made by someone who'd had a bit too much oil before starting work. This disparity in quality also hints at the economic realities. A wealthier pilgrim might commission a finer badge, perhaps even one made of silver or gilded bronze, though lead was by far the most common. The majority of pilgrims, struggling for every coin, would settle for the cheapest option, as long as it had the right image. It was a status symbol, but also a budget souvenir. Yes, this badge is slightly crooked, but it's authentic crooked. Unlike Bartholomew's perfectly straight, likely fake one. You wonder about the people who made these badges. Were they devout craftsmen, pouring their piety into each mold? Or were they simply entrepreneurs, churning out thousands of identical pieces for the masses, their minds more on profit margins than spiritual enlightenment? Probably a bit of both, knowing human nature. Imagine the sheer volume of production needed for some of the more popular shrines. It must have been quite the industrial operation, albeit one powered by hand-cranked presses and furnaces fueled by charcoal. It was the medieval equivalent of a souvenir factory, minus the air conditioning and safety regulations. The badges weren't always worn on the person. Sometimes they were affixed to walking sticks, or sewn onto the pilgrim's scrip, the small pouch carried for food and alms. You can imagine a pilgrim returning home, carefully pinning their collection of badges to a wall or a special piece of fabric, a visible testament to their journeys. It was a family's heirloom, a visual record of their ancestors' spiritual endeavors. Future generations could look at them and say, Grandpa Egbert walked all the way to Rome, and all he got was this dented piece of lead, but he loved it. The very act of collecting these badges was a social ritual. Pilgrims would compare their collections, share stories of their journeys, and perhaps even trade. I'll give you my Canterbury vial for your Jerusalem cross, plus a piece of my last stale bread! It built a sense of community, connecting individuals who might otherwise have nothing in common beyond their shared destination. The badges were conversation starters, icebreakers on a dusty road. Nice badge, where'd you get it? Oh, you got held up by bandits near that village too. Small world! As the stars begin to pepper the darkening sky, you find a relatively flat spot off the path to rest. The ground is hard, but you're too tired to care much. You lie back, gazing up at the vast expanse above. The silence, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl, is a welcome balm. You think about the countless pilgrims who have rested in similar spots, their pockets or pouches heavy with the metal tokens of their journeys. They sought spiritual solace, but they also sought a tangible connection to the sacred, something they could hold, something they could display. The pilgrim badge, humble as it was, fulfilled that deep human need for meaning and connection. It truly was the medieval equivalent of a "been there, done that" sticker, but with a lot more spiritual weight and a higher chance of giving you tetanus. And with that thought, a gentle wave of sleepiness washes over you, pulling you deeper into the quietude of the night. A faint glimmer of dawn light begins to streak the eastern sky, painting the clouds in soft hues of rose and grey. You stir, your body stiff from sleeping on the hard ground. The air is crisp and cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke. Other pilgrims are already beginning to rise, their forms silhouetted against the growing light. A cough here, a murmur there, and the quiet rustle of cloth as cloaks are adjusted. The road beckons once more, a long, winding path through a world still largely untamed. You stretch, a dull ache in your lower back a constant reminder of your journey, and prepare for another day of walking. The sheer variety of pilgrim badge iconography is truly astounding. It wasn't just a generic cross or a simple image of a saint. Each shrine, each pilgrimage site developed its own unique designs, often incorporating specific symbols or scenes related to the saint or miracles celebrated there. For instance, badges from the shrine of Thomas Becket at Canterbury often depicted his martyrdom, sometimes even showing the sword striking his head, a grim but powerful reminder of his sacrifice. Others might show him holding his archiepiscopal cross, or a simple initial T. It was like a medieval branding exercise, each site trying to make its souvenir distinct and recognizable. You know you've been to Canterbury when you see a badge of a guy getting a sword to the head. Good times. One mainstream historical fact is that the peak period for pilgrim badge production and use was roughly from the 12th to the 15th centuries. This coincided with a general boom in pilgrimage itself, driven by religious fervor, increased accessibility of travel relatively speaking, and perhaps a growing sense of curiosity about the world beyond one's immediate village. It was a golden age for the traveling devout, or at least, the traveling determined. Before this period, pilgrimage was still common, but the mass production and widespread collecting of badges hadn't quite taken off. A quirky tidbit about some badges. They weren't always solid pieces of metal. Some were hollow, designed to hold a tiny relic or a piece of earth from the holy site. Imagine carrying a little piece of the Holy Land, or a fragment of a saint's bone, or what was claimed to be a fragment. Anyway encased in a lead badge, it added an extra layer of spiritual power and personal connection to the souvenir. Of course, the content of these hollow badges was rarely scrutinized with modern scientific rigor. It could be a piece of gravel from outside the shrine, or even just some particularly dusty lint, but the belief was what truly mattered. Historians still debate the extent to which these badges were truly effective in granting indulgences or spiritual benefits. While the Church certainly encouraged pilgrimage and saw the badges as symbols of devotion, the exact theological weight attached to simply possessing a badge isn't always clear. Was it the journey itself that counted, or the tangible proof? Was the badge a direct conduit for divine grace, or merely a reminder of a spiritual experience? It's a bit like asking if buying a concert t-shirt gives you the same experience as actually being at the concert. Most likely not, but it sure helps you remember the experience and makes you look cool, or at least medieval cool. You notice a young woman walking near you, her face etched with a quiet determination. On her simple, homespun dress, she has a small, unassuming badge, but it's one you recognize. The crossed keys of St. Peter, indicating a pilgrimage to Rome. This particular badge, though humble in appearance, speaks volumes. Rome was one of the most significant and difficult pilgrimages, often taking months or even years. It required immense personal sacrifice and endurance. Her small badge is a quiet declaration of immense achievement. It's the medieval equivalent of running a marathon and only subtly mentioning it. The process of making these badges was surprisingly simple, yet effective. Molten lead or tin was poured into stone or clay molds, which would have been carved with the desired design. Once cooled, the metal piece was removed, and any rough edges might be filed down. It was a quick and efficient way to produce thousands of identical, or nearly identical objects. This explains their relative cheapness and widespread availability. You didn't need a fancy university degree to be a badge maker. Just a steady hand and a willingness to work with molten metal in less than ideal conditions, and perhaps a tolerance for lead fumes. You can almost hear the clamour of a medieval marketplace where these badges would have been sold. The cries of vendors, the haggling over prices, the jostling crowds. It wasn't a quiet, reverent space. It was a vibrant commercial hub fueled by the devotional economy. Pilgrims, after enduring weeks of hardship, were often ready to spend a few precious coins on a tangible memento, something to prove their journey and mark their achievement. It was the original gift shop, but instead of mini Eiffel Towers, you got mini pieces of lead. Sometimes badges would depict specific miraculous events associated with a shrine. For example, if a saint was known for curing blindness, a badge might show a figure with eyes opening, or perhaps a pair of stylized eyes. These visual narratives were important in a largely illiterate society, conveying the power and efficacy of the saint without needing words. It was visual storytelling, a comic book panel in metal. This made them powerful tools for both devotion and propaganda, reinforcing the fame and power of the pilgrimage site. You pass a group of older pilgrims, their faces lined with age and experience. Their badges, you notice, are more numerous and often more worn, testament to a lifetime of travel and devotion. They wear them with a quiet dignity, each one a memory, a story, a prayer etched in metal. It's a reminder that pilgrimage wasn't just a one-time event for many. It was a lifelong pursuit, a recurring theme in their spiritual journey. They're the medieval frequent flyers, except their loyalty points were counted in prayers and blisters. As the sun climbs higher, warming your face, you feel a renewed sense of purpose. The road stretches ahead, a ribbon of possibility. You might stumble, you might get lost. You might even encounter a particularly stubborn goat blocking the path, but you will keep going. And as you walk, you imagine the weight of those small, leaden badges in your pocket or pinned to your clothing. They are more than just trinkets. They are tangible links to a past filled with faith, perseverance, and a surprising obsession with commemorative souvenirs. The medieval pilgrim, it turns out, was far more relatable than you might have thought. They just had a much harder time getting a decent cup of coffee on their journey. With that comforting thought, you continue your journey, your steps falling into a steady, rhythmic cadence on the ancient path. A soft, sleepy feeling begins to settle over you, a gentle lull. The midday sun beats down, warming your shoulders through your worn tunic. Dust billows up from the road with every step, coating your clothes and catching in your throat. You reach for your water skin, finding it disappointingly light. The journey is relentless, a testament to endurance, both physical and spiritual. You pass a small stream. Its water clear and inviting, and you pause for a moment to splash your face, feeling the cool relief against your skin. The simple pleasures of the road become magnified, each sip of water, each moment of shade, a small blessing. The practice of wearing pilgrim badges wasn't just about personal display. It also fostered a strong sense of identity and community among pilgrims. When you met another traveller on the road who wore the same shell of Santiago or the same Canterbury vial, there was an instant recognition, a shared experience that transcended social barriers. A knight and a peasant, a merchant and a nun, all could share a common bond forged on the pilgrimage road, united by their badges. It was like seeing someone wearing your favorite band's t-shirt, an immediate conversation starter, and an unspoken understanding. Hey, you like medieval pilgrimage? Me too! One mainstream historical fact is that the demand for these badges was so high that special pilgrim routes sometimes had dedicated badge-making workshops or stalls at key points along the way, not just at the final destination. Imagine a small village, usually quiet and unremarkable, suddenly bustling with the sound of hammers hitting metal and the cries of vendors, all thanks to the steady stream of pilgrims passing through. It was like a pop-up shop, but with more dirt and less Wi-Fi. A quirky tidbit. Some badges were designed to be generic enough that they could be adapted or reused for different pilgrimages, perhaps by simply adding a small, new emblem. This might have been a budget-friendly option for pilgrims who couldn't afford a new badge for every single shrine they visited, or perhaps for those who simply liked to repurpose. You could think of it as the medieval equivalent of upcycling, turning your old pilgrimage proof into something new and exciting. This isn't just a generic cross, it's a repurposed generic cross. Thank you very much! Historians still debate the exact reasons for the decline in pilgrim badge production and use in the late medieval and early modern periods. Was it the rise of new devotional practices, the impact of the Reformation challenging the veneration of relics and saints, or simply a change in fashion? It's likely a combination of factors. As the religious landscape shifted, so too did the physical expressions of faith. The badges, once so central, gradually faded from their prominent role, becoming historical curiosities rather than everyday objects of devotion. It's a bit sad, really. Like a once popular toy that no one plays with anymore. You spot a fellow pilgrim attempting to fix a broken wheel on his small, hand-pulled cart. He looks frustrated, muttering under his breath. On his cap, you see a small, almost faded badge depicting a stylized ship. This tells you he's likely journeyed across the sea, perhaps to the Holy Land or to Rome, bringing back not just a badge, but also the stories of the open ocean, the cramped conditions, and the ever-present threat of seasickness. His current struggle with a wooden wheel must seem trivial compared to navigating a stormy Mediterranean. At least this wheel isn't trying to make me throw up, you imagine him thinking. The sheer variety of materials used, though primarily lead, also included pewter, tin, and occasionally more precious metals like silver for those who could afford it. The lead ones, being cheap and easy to cast, dominated the market. They were the mass-produced items of their day, durable enough to survive a long journey, yet humble enough to be accessible to most. Imagine trying to explain to a medieval person that one day, people would pay vast sums for something called a limited edition collectible made of plastic. Their minds would be blown. The cultural significance of these badges extended beyond the religious. They were sometimes mentioned in literature and poetry, becoming symbols of travel, endurance, and piety. A character in a play might be instantly recognizable as a returning pilgrim by the badges adorning his clothing. They were part of the visual language of the age, understood by everyone. It was a common visual shorthand, much like a modern logo. Oh, he's wearing the Nike swoosh of pilgrimage! He must be a serious runner, or at least a serious walker. The designs weren't always solemn. Some badges had a touch of medieval whimsy, or even a bit of dark humor, reflecting the popular culture of the time. You might find a badge with a depiction of a saint wrestling a demon, or a playful dragon. These weren't always purely serious devotional objects. They also tapped into the broader artistic and narrative traditions of the period. Imagine finding a badge with a saint making a funny face. Probably didn't happen, but one can dream. You think about the countless stories these badges could tell, if only they could speak. The hardships endured, the prayers whispered, the fears overcome, the moments of joy and camaraderie on the road. Each badge is a tiny, silent witness to a human journey, a personal quest played out on a grand stage. They are more than just metal. They are fragments of lived experience, preserved through the centuries. And you, walking this very path, are now adding your own silent story to the long, long history of pilgrims. As the sun begins its slow descent, casting long shadows across the fields, you feel a gentle fatigue settling in. The rhythmic crunch of your feet on the gravel road is almost hypnotic. You scan the horizon, looking for a suitable place to rest for the night, a spot where the wind won't bite too hard and the ground feels relatively soft. the world around you slowly softens, losing its harsh edges as daylight fades. You imagine the medieval pilgrims just like you, feeling this same gentle wariness, their minds perhaps drifting to thoughts of home, or the next shrine, or simply a good night's sleep. The badges, small and unassuming, a heavy reminder of their journey, a whispered promise of stories told upon return. A profound sense of quiet washes over you, ushering in the gentle embrace of the coming night. The air cools considerably as night descends, bringing with it a profound stillness that settles over the landscape. The stars, countless and impossibly bright, begin to emerge in the velvet expanse above, creating a celestial map for your quiet thoughts. You find a sheltered spot near a cluster of trees, the rustling leaves a soft lullaby against the vast silence. A small fire crackles nearby, tended by other pilgrims, its warmth a welcome beacon in the growing darkness. You pull your cloak tighter, savoring the moment of rest, allowing your mind to wander through the echoes of the past. The ritual of buying and blessing pilgrim badges was a significant part of the pilgrimage experience. It wasn't just a simple transaction. It was often imbued with spiritual meaning. Once purchased from a vendor, pilgrims would typically take their newly acquired badges to the shrine itself, or to a priest, to be blessed. This act transformed the metal trinket from a mere souvenir into a sacred object, a conduit for the saint's power or the shrine's grace. It's like buying a souvenir at a gift shop and then immediately taking it to a sacred space for a blessing. Definitely adds a little extra oomph to your keychain. One mainstream historical fact is that the most common locations for pilgrim badges to be found by archaeologists are in riverbeds and along ancient routes. This makes perfect sense. As mentioned earlier, many were likely lost or discarded during river crossings, or simply dropped during the long, arduous journeys. The water and the surrounding silt provided an excellent, anaerobic environment for their preservation, preventing rust and decay. Rivers were essentially medieval time capsules, full of little metallic secrets. A quirky tidbit about some particularly elaborate badges. A few rare examples have been found that incorporated small, intricate cages, perhaps designed to hold tiny fragments of actual holy relics. Imagine a miniature, portable reliquary, a personal shrine you could carry with you. These would have been extremely expensive and exclusive, reserved for the wealthiest or most influential pilgrims. It's the medieval equivalent of having a custom-made, diamond-encrusted phone case, but for your tiny Saint Bone. Definitely a conversation starter at the medieval equivalent of a dinner party. Oh, this old thing. Just a piece of Saint Cuthbert shin bone. NBD. Historians still debate the specific methods of badge production. While we know they were cast in molds, the exact process, the types of furnaces used, and the division of labor within these workshops are still subjects of ongoing research and speculation. Was it a highly skilled craft, passed down through generations, or a more industrialized process driven by the sheer volume of demand? The truth likely lies somewhere in between, with variations depending on the size and fame of the pilgrimage site. It's a bit like trying to figure out how medieval people managed to tie their shoes without Velcro. A true mystery. You recall a story you once heard, perhaps from a traveling merchant, about a pilgrim who claimed his badge saved him from a band of robbers. He swore that the glint of the badge, depicting a fierce dragon-slaying saint, so startled the bandits that they fled in terror, believing he was under divine protection. While probably an exaggeration, it speaks to the powerful psychological role these badges played. They weren't just physical objects, they were symbols of faith, hope, and perhaps even a touch of good luck. My badge is so shiny, it blinded the bandits. Also, I ran really fast. The iconography on the badges wasn't always straightforward. Sometimes, they featured more cryptic or allegorical images, requiring a certain degree of religious literacy to fully understand their meaning. This added another layer of depth and engagement for the pilgrim, turning the badge into a miniature puzzle or a devotional aid for contemplation. It was like a medieval art piece, but small enough to fit in your pocket and less likely to get stolen. The phenomenon of pilgrimage and the associated badge economy highlights the medieval worldview, where the sacred and the mundane were deeply intertwined. You didn't leave your faith at home when you went on a journey. It permeated every aspect of your life, from the food you ate to the objects you carried. The badges were a physical manifestation of this integration, a bridge between the spiritual realm and the very tangible reality of dusty roads and tired feet. It's a beautiful thought that even in the toughest moments, faith found a way to be worn proudly. You imagine the joy and relief felt by a pilgrim finally reaching their destination, perhaps after months of arduous travel. The sight of the shrine, the prayers answered, the sins forgiven, and then the satisfying click of a newly purchased badge being pinned to their cloak. A physical mark of completion, a tiny victory. It's a feeling of accomplishment that transcends time, a universal human emotion. You didn't get a medal at the finish line, but you got a badge, which was arguably cooler, because it might have a tiny piece of a saint in it. As you lie there, listening to the gentle sounds of the night, you feel a deep connection to those who walked before you. Their journeys, their struggles, their hopes, and their simple pieces of lead, all part of a vast, shared human story. The pilgrim badges, so small and often overlooked, were powerful symbols in their time, connecting the faithful to their saints, to each other, and to the very act of seeking. They were both a destination and a journey in miniature. The quietness of the night surrounds you, a comforting blanket. A soft sigh escapes your lips as you drift deeper into a peaceful, gentle sleep, your mind filled with the quiet echoes of medieval journeys. The first true light of day filters through the trees, casting long, thin shadows across the dewy grass. A robin chirps a cheerful morning song, and the air is fresh and cool, carrying the faint scent of pine. You stretch, feeling the stiffness gradually ease from your limbs as you begin to stir. The promise of a new day, another stretch of road, fills you with a quiet resolve. Other pilgrims are already packing their meager belongings, their movements quiet and efficient. The collective purpose, though unspoken, is palpable. The secular uses and implications of pilgrim badges are just as fascinating as their religious ones. Beyond proof of devotion or journey, they sometimes served as identifiers for travelers who had permission to beg or receive alms. In a society where vagrancy was often viewed with suspicion, a legitimate pilgrim with a badge might be afforded more charity and less scrutiny. It was like having a special pass that said, "I'm not just wandering aimlessly. I'm on a holy quest, and I'm very hungry." This practical aspect highlights how deeply intertwined religious practice was with the social fabric of the time. One mainstream historical fact is that pilgrim badges were often produced in large quantities and sold relatively cheaply, making them accessible to a wide range of social classes. While wealthier pilgrims might opt for more elaborate or precious metal versions, the common lead tin alloys ensured that even the poorest could afford a tangible memento of their journey. This mass production foreshadows later industrial developments, showing an early example of catering to a mass market. It was truly a democratization of souvenirs, well before the invention of the gift shop cash register. A quirky tidbit. Some badges depicted more unusual or even fantastical creatures, not directly related to saints but perhaps to local legends or symbolic narratives. You might find a badge with a griffin, a mermaid, or a grotesque figure, perhaps reflecting regional folklore or a more generalized protective symbol. These were less about a specific saint and more about the broader mystical landscape of the medieval world. It's like finding a medieval tourist trinket that features Bigfoot instead of a famous landmark. Yeah, This one's from the forest where the man-bear-pig supposedly roams.
Spooky stuff!
Historians still debate the specific regulatory frameworks, if any, that govern the production and sale of pilgrim badges. Were there quality controls? Were certain designs protected by the shrine authorities? Or was it largely an unregulated market, where anyone could set up a forge and start stamping out authentic badges? The evidence suggests a mix, with some shrines exerting more control over their iconic designs, while others had a more laissez-faire approach. It's the medieval equivalent of trying to enforce copyright law on a rapidly expanding Etsy market.
Good luck with that!
You pass a small group of children playing near the road, their laughter a bright counterpoint to the quiet solemnity of the pilgrims. One child has a small, simple cross badge pinned to his tunic, undoubtedly given to him by a returning parent or relative. It's a reminder that these objects transcended individual journeys, becoming part of family lore and communal memory. They were passed down, gifted, and revered, carrying the weight of journeys not just taken, but shared. It's like your grandma's souvenir spoon collection, but way cooler because it's made of lead and has a saint on it. The designs on the badges sometimes varied seasonally or for special events, much like commemorative coins today. A major feast day at a shrine might lead to the production of a limited edition badge, making it even more desirable for collectors. This element of rarity and exclusivity added another layer to the badge collecting craze, turning it into a kind of medieval treasure hunt. Did you get the limited edition Easter week badge from Canterbury?
Only 500 were made! I stood in line for hours.
The act of pilgrimage itself was a transformative experience, and the badge served as a permanent physical reminder of that transformation. It was a before and after photo in metal, a testament to the person you were when you left and the person you became on the journey. You might have left as a sinner, but you returned as a forgiven soul, with a shiny badge to prove it. It's a bit like getting a diploma after graduating, except your school was a dusty, bandit-ridden road, and your graduation ceremony was a solemn mass. You consider the sheer human effort involved in these journeys, walking for hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles, facing harsh weather, limited food, and the constant threat of illness or attack. The badges, humble as they seem, represent an incredible feat of human perseverance and faith. They are small monuments to extraordinary determination. And yet, you're still thinking about that stubborn goat. What if it had a badge? What would it symbolize? Probably just I ate all the grass. As the morning wears on, the sun rises higher, its warmth a comforting presence. The sounds of the road begin to pick up. The distant barking of a dog, the creak of a wagon wheel, the lowing of cattle. You feel your own rhythm settling into the steady pace of the path. The world, once dark and mysterious, now reveals itself in gentle detail. You imagine the medieval pilgrims, much like you, their minds filled with the mundane realities of the journey, but their hearts uplifted by the spiritual purpose. And pinned to their garments, or tucked away for safekeeping, were those small, unassuming badges, carrying the weight of their profound experiences. The quiet hum of the world, and your own steady breathing, begins to lull you into a state of deep, peaceful calm. The path ahead begins to narrow, winding through a denser patch of woods. Sunlight filters through the canopy in dappled patterns, casting shifting shadows on the forest floor. The air here is cooler, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The sounds of the road fade, replaced by the rustle of leaves underfoot and the distant call of a bird. It's a peaceful respite, a moment of quiet reflection amidst the ongoing journey. You breathe deeply, savoring the tranquility, allowing the natural world to soothe your tired spirit. The concept of votive offerings is closely tied to pilgrim badges. While some badges were purchased as souvenirs, others were offered to the shrine itself as a sign of gratitude for a miracle or a prayer answered. Imagine a pilgrim who had been cured of an illness, leaving a badge at the altar of a healing saint, a tangible expression of their thanks. This practice highlights the reciprocal relationship between the pilgrim and the sacred, a give and take where faith was expressed through both journey and offering. It's like leaving a tip, but instead of for good service, it's for divine intervention. And instead of money, it's a piece of lead. One mainstream historical fact is that the designs on pilgrim badges often mirrored the larger, more elaborate devotional art found within the shrines themselves, such as stained glass windows, frescoes, or sculptures. This served to reinforce the visual identity of the shrine and provided a miniature, portable version of its sacred imagery. It was a way to bring a piece of the grand artistry and spiritual power of the pilgrimage site home with you. A tiny, personal art gallery for your tunic. A quirky tidbit: some badges have been found that appear to have been crudely mended or altered, suggesting that pilgrims valued them enough to repair them rather than simply discarding them. Perhaps a badge broke during a fall, or a small piece snapped off, and the pilgrim painstakingly tried to fix it. This hints at the personal attachment and sentimental value these objects held, going beyond mere monetary worth. It's like patching up your favorite worn-out blanket instead of buying a new one, because it holds too many memories. Or maybe they were just really cheap and couldn't afford a new one. Probably both. Historians still debate the specific influence of changing theological views on the production and popularity of pilgrim badges. Did the rise of new philosophical schools or the critiques of certain reformers contribute to a shift away from physical devotional objects? Or was it a more gradual evolution of popular piety? It's a complex interplay of religious thought, social trends, and economic factors. It's a bit like trying to figure out why bell-bottoms went out of style. Many reasons, all interconnected. You recall seeing a medieval manuscript illustration once, depicting a pilgrim returning home, his entire cloak covered in an overlapping tapestry of badges. It was a truly impressive sight, a visual resume of his extensive travels and deep devotion. This wasn't just collecting. It was an extreme form of display, a living testament to a life dedicated to spiritual journeys. It was the ultimate medieval flex, long before anyone knew what flex meant. Oh, this! Just my entire life history, stitched onto my cloak. What have you been up to? The symbolism embedded in these badges was rich and layered. A scallop shell, the quintessential symbol of Santiago de Compostela, not only represented the pilgrimage to the tomb of St. James, but also could symbolize the waters of baptism, or even the journey of life itself. A seemingly simple image could open up a wealth of spiritual meaning for the contemplative pilgrim. It's a testament to the depth of medieval symbolic thought, where nothing was quite as simple as it appeared. The phenomenon of pilgrim badges also reflects the medieval understanding of relics. For many, the badge wasn't just a souvenir from a holy place. It contained, by proxy, a fragment of the holiness of that place. It was almost a portable, mass-produced relic in itself, allowing ordinary people to carry a piece of the sacred with them wherever they went. This concept of contact relics was powerful and widespread. It was like bringing a piece of the magic home with you, just in case you needed a little extra holy mojo on a Tuesday. You imagine the feeling of security and comfort that these badges might have provided to a lone pilgrim on a dangerous road. A small piece of metal, blessed by a priest, carrying the image of a powerful saint. It was a tangible link to divine protection, a silent prayer worn openly. It provided courage in the face of uncertainty, a physical reminder that they were not entirely alone. It was their spiritual security blanket, albeit one made of heavy metal. As the afternoon sun begins its slow descent, painting the forest in golden light, you continue your walk. The sounds of the woods are a gentle symphony around you. The rustle of leaves, the distant call of a cuckoo, the gentle hum of unseen insects. You feel a profound sense of peace settling over you, a quiet harmony with the ancient path and the countless souls who have walked it before. The thought of those small, humble badges, each one a whisper of a journey, a testament to faith, fills your mind with warmth. And as the shadows lengthen, a deep, comforting drowsiness begins to envelop you, inviting you into a restful and peaceful sleep. The forest canopy overhead is now a vast, dark canvas punctured by pinpricks of starlight. The air has grown cooler, carrying the damp scent of night. You find a comfortable spot among the roots of an ancient oak, its rough bark a familiar comfort against your back. The sounds of the night are a gentle lullaby. The distant hoot of an owl, the soft rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, the rhythmic breathing of your fellow pilgrims nearby. It's a time for quiet reflection, a chance to let your mind drift with the ancient currents of history. The economic infrastructure that grew up around pilgrimage sites and the production of badges was quite sophisticated for its time. It wasn't just a few individuals hammering out lead. It involved mining the ore, transporting it, melting and casting, designing and carving molds, and then the extensive network of vendors and distributors. This created jobs and wealth in regions that might otherwise have been isolated or poor. Pilgrimage was not just a spiritual phenomenon. It was a major economic driver, a medieval boom industry. It was like the tech industry of its day, but with more lead poisoning and fewer venture capitalists. One mainstream historical fact is that many pilgrim badges depict saints or figures specifically associated with healing. Pilgrimage was often undertaken by those seeking cures for illnesses, and these badges served as both a request for intervention and a commemoration of a miraculous recovery. The belief in the intercessory power of saints was central to medieval Catholicism, and the badges were a physical manifestation of that belief. If you had a headache, you didn't reach for ibuprofen. You bought a badge of Saint Apollonia, patron saint of dentists, and hoped for the best. A quirky tidbit: some badges were designed to be sewn onto clothing, rather than pinned. These often had small holes around the edges, allowing them to be stitched securely to a garment. This suggests a desire for greater permanence, perhaps for badges that represented a particularly significant pilgrimage or were intended to be worn for a long time. It also means they were less likely to fall off accidentally and end up at the bottom of a river, which is a shame for future archaeologists. Darn it, another one that didn't end up in the mud. Historians still debate the extent to which the church actively promoted or regulated the commercial aspects of pilgrimage, including the sale of badges. Did they see it as a necessary evil, a way to fund the upkeep of shrines? Or did they actively encourage it as a legitimate means for pilgrims to express their devotion and remember their journeys? The relationship between piety and profit was often complex in the Middle Ages, as it is today. It's like trying to figure out if your favorite band genuinely wants you to buy their merchandise, or if they're just trying to pay for their tour bus. Probably a bit of both. You imagine the long, slow journeys taken by merchants and traders to bring the raw materials, lead, tin, and even molds to the pilgrimage sites. These weren't quick trips. They involved weeks of travel, facing the same dangers as the pilgrims themselves. The supply chain for medieval badges was a testament to the logistical capabilities of the age. It was medieval Amazon, but with actual donkeys instead of delivery vans. The sheer volume of pilgrim badges found suggests that almost every pilgrim who could afford one acquired at least one, if not many. They were an integral part of the pilgrimage experience, as expected as packing a staff and a water skin. To return from a major pilgrimage without a badge would be almost unthinkable, a missed opportunity to truly commemorate your journey. It would be like going to a theme park and not buying a single overpriced souvenir.
Unheard of!
The narrative power of these badges was immense. Each image told a story, often one that was familiar to everyone in medieval society: the life of a saint, a miraculous intervention, a key moment from the Gospels. These small objects served as a constant reminder of these stories, reinforcing religious narratives and moral lessons. They were miniature sermons in metal, carried on the person, and they were way less preachy than actual sermons. You reflect on the resilience of the medieval pilgrim. Faced with daunting challenges, they pressed on, driven by faith, hope, and the desire for spiritual fulfillment. The badges they collected were not just tokens. They were symbols of that resilience, tangible proof that they had faced adversity and persevered. They were battle scars, but for your soul, and much less painful than actual battle scars. As you lie wrapped in the gentle darkness, a profound sense of peace descends. The forest whispers around you, a soft, hushed symphony. The world outside, with its endless demands and worries, seems distant and unimportant. You are simply here, in this moment, connected to a long, unbroken chain of human endeavor and devotion. The image of those small, unassuming badges, each one a silent witness to a journey, floats gently in your mind. They are a testament to the enduring human need to mark milestones, to remember, and to believe. And with that tranquil thought, you drift deeper into a soft, dreamless sleep, enveloped by the quiet embrace of the ancient woods. The first hint of morning light, a pale silver against the horizon, begins to soften the darkness. The air is still and cool, carrying the faint scent of dew on grass. You stir, your body gradually loosening from its night's rest. The world around you slowly awakens, a gentle chorus of birdsong greeting the new day. Other pilgrims are also beginning to rouse, their movements quiet and deliberate. The road, ever present, stretches out before you, inviting another day of walking, another day of quiet contemplation. The phenomenon of pilgrim tokens or jetons, which were similar to badges, but often used for charitable distributions or as a form of medieval currency within pilgrimage centers, adds another layer to the badge story. These weren't always worn, but they highlight the intense economic activity surrounding these sites. Sometimes, these tokens even depicted the same iconography as the badges, blurring the lines between souvenir, offering, and exchange medium. It's like a medieval frequent flyer program, but instead of airline miles, you get a small piece of metal that might also be a commemorative coin.
Very versatile.
One mainstream historical fact is that pilgrim badges were often worn openly, on the outer garments, ensuring their visibility to others. This wasn't a hidden devotion. It was a public declaration of your journey and your piety. This open display was crucial for their function as proof of travel and as a social identifier. Imagine trying to subtly hide your "I survived the Camino" t-shirt under a trench coat. It just wouldn't have the same impact. A quirky tidbit: some badges incorporated tiny bells or jingling parts, making them not just visually striking but also audibly noticeable. Imagine the collective sound of hundreds of pilgrims walking together, their badges subtly jingling with every step. It would have created a unique, almost musical, soundtrack to the pilgrimage experience. It's like a medieval charm bracelet, but with more spiritual gravitas and less chance of getting caught on your sleeve.
Listen, that's Bartholomew.
I can tell by the distinct jingle of his Jerusalem cross. Historians still debate the extent to which the badges were seen as having genuine miraculous power in themselves, versus being merely a symbol or a reminder of the sacred site. While some undoubtedly believed they were imbued with actual healing or protective properties, others might have viewed them more as personal keepsakes. This spectrum of belief reflects the diverse ways in which medieval people engaged with their faith, ranging from the deeply mystical to the more pragmatic. It's like discussing whether a lucky charm actually brings luck, or if it just makes you feel more confident.
A timeless debate.
You see a family group ahead, a mother and father with 2 young children, their faces tired but resolute. The children, surprisingly, also wear small, simple badges, perhaps miniature versions gifted to them. It speaks to the intergenerational nature of pilgrimage, where entire families undertook these arduous journeys together, and the badges became a shared family heritage, a testament to their collective faith and endurance. It's like a medieval family vacation, except instead of theme parks, it's walking for hundreds of miles, and the kids still probably asked, "Are we there yet?" The act of pilgrimage itself was a journey into the unknown, a disruption of the ordinary. The badges, in their simplicity, offered a tangible connection to the extraordinary. They were a piece of the sacred brought back to the mundane world, a bridge between the spiritual quest and everyday life. They allowed the pilgrim to carry a little bit of the divine with them, a constant reminder of their encounter with the holy. It's like bringing back a handful of sand from a beautiful beach, except the sand is lead and it's from a holy site. The sheer volume of badges found across Europe highlights the incredible mobility of medieval people. Despite the dangers and difficulties, individuals traveled vast distances, driven by faith, curiosity, and a yearning for connection. The badges are a silent testament to this forgotten era of widespread travel and exploration, long before maps were accurate or inns were clean. Imagine trying to explain GPS to a medieval pilgrim. Their mind would surely explode. You reflect on the raw, unfiltered faith that propelled these journeys. It wasn't always a gentle, serene experience. It was often gritty, uncomfortable, and challenging. Yet, the pilgrims endured, their faith unwavering, their simple badges their silent companions. They are a powerful reminder of human devotion, in all its forms, and sometimes in all its very smelly forms. As the morning sun begins to climb higher, its warmth spreading across the landscape, you feel a renewed sense of purpose. The sounds of the day grow louder, the rustle of leaves, the distant bleating of sheep, the murmur of conversation from nearby pilgrims. You feel a quiet contentment settling over you, a sense of belonging to this ancient rhythm of travel and devotion. The image of those small, leaden badges, each one a whispered story of perseverance and belief, fills your mind with a gentle warmth, and as the world around you brightens, you feel a deep, comforting drowsiness begin to envelop you, easing you into a state of profound and peaceful rest. The soft glow of dusk paints the western sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, slowly deepening into twilight. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint scent of damp earth as night begins its slow descent. You find a sheltered spot near a gentle rise, the ground surprisingly soft beneath your weary body. The sounds of the day begin to fade, replaced by the chirping of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. It's a time for quiet reflection, for letting your thoughts drift like smoke towards the vast, darkening sky. The materials used for pilgrim badges were largely determined by practicality and cost. Lead and tin alloys were ideal because they had low melting points, making them easy to cast even with rudimentary equipment. They were also relatively abundant and cheap, ensuring that badges could be mass-produced and sold at an affordable price to the majority of pilgrims. Imagine trying to make 1,000 souvenirs out of gold in the Middle Ages. You'd need a dragon to guard your workshop, and a very strong back. One mainstream historical fact is that the designs on pilgrim badges often provide valuable insights into medieval popular piety and the specific devotions of different regions. By studying the iconography, historians can learn about which saints were most revered, which miracles were most believed, and even how certain theological concepts were visually represented to the general populace. It's like a medieval infographic, telling you what was important to people without them having to write it down. A quirky tidbit. Some badges from popular shrines depicted specific body parts, such as eyes, hands, or even breasts, indicating a prayer for healing of that particular ailment. or gratitude for a cure. It's a very literal and direct form of votive offering, taking the idea of a personal request and turning it into a small, wearable piece of art. Imagine wearing a badge of a perfectly healthy looking knee to celebrate your recovered knee. It's a bit like an X-ray, but less scary and more spiritual. Historians still debate the specific methods of distributing these badges beyond the immediate vicinity of the shrine. Were there traveling salesmen who took them to distant markets? Did pilgrims sometimes buy them in bulk to sell back home? The logistics of getting these mass-produced items into the hands of pilgrims from all corners of Europe is still a subject of much scholarly discussion. It's a medieval supply chain mystery, a bit like trying to figure out how all those tiny plastic toys ended up in cereal boxes without getting squished. You recall a story of a pilgrim returning from a long journey, his appearance haggard, his clothes ragged, but his face alight with a quiet joy. Pinned to his worn cloak were a multitude of badges, each one a testament to a different shrine, a different prayer answered, a different hardship endured. He might have been poor in worldly goods, but his cloak was rich with the stories of his faith. It was a wearable biography, a life told in small metallic pictures, and probably a bit heavy too. The sheer durability of these lead badges is remarkable. Many have survived centuries underground, emerging from the soil or riverbeds in surprisingly good condition, allowing us to study them today. This speaks to the robust nature of their material and manufacturing, unintended though it might have been. They weren't designed to be archaeological treasures. They were simply designed to last the journey. It's like discovering your old flip phone still works after being buried for 20 years. The badges also served as a form of visual catechism, teaching illiterate pilgrims about saints, miracles, and Christian doctrine through easily recognizable images. They were miniature educational tools, silently conveying important religious messages without the need for books or sermons. It was learning on the go, literally, and probably more engaging than being forced to memorize boring facts. You imagine the deep personal connection a pilgrim must have felt to their badges. Each one represented a prayer, a hope, a moment of profound spiritual experience. They were not just impersonal souvenirs, they were infused with meaning, becoming extensions of the pilgrim's own journey of faith. They were small pieces of their soul, externalized in metal. As the last vestiges of daylight fade, and the stars begin to twinkle brightly above, you feel a deep peace settling over you. The world falls silent, save for the gentle sounds of the night. You lie there, listening to your own slow, steady breathing. And imagine the quiet dignity of the medieval pilgrims, their humble badges shining faintly in the moonlight. Silent witnesses to their faith and their tireless journeys. The thought of their resilience, their simple devotion, brings a profound sense of calm. A deep, gentle drowsiness washes over you, pulling you softly into the quiet comfort of the night, where dreams of ancient roads and shining badges await. When a whisper of dawn begins to paint the eastern sky in soft, ethereal hues of pink and gold, the air is cool and still, carrying the fresh scent of pine from the surrounding trees. You stir from your slumber, your body feeling surprisingly rested despite the hard ground. A faint mist hangs low over the fields, slowly dissipating as the light strengthens. Other pilgrims are already beginning to rise, their movements quiet and deliberate, the promise of a new day calling them back to the road. You stretch, a deep breath filling your lungs, ready for the path ahead. The concept of pilgrim certificates or letters, which sometimes accompanied the badges, highlights another aspect of medieval travel authentication. While the badges were visual proof, these written documents served as formal validation of a pilgrimage, especially for those undertaking penance or traveling on behalf of others. This combination of visual and written proof provided a robust system for verifying claims of distant travel. It was like having both your passport stamped and a written letter from the embassy confirming your trip. Very official, very medieval. One mainstream historical fact is that specific shrines often had their own unique franchise of badge designs, which were carefully guarded. The Canterbury ampulla small vials for sacred liquid and the Santiago scallop shells are prime examples of this. These iconic designs were instantly recognizable across Europe, serving as powerful branding for the respective pilgrimage sites. It's like how you know a certain golden arch means burgers, or a specific fruit logo means very expensive phones. Medieval branding was just a little more subtle. A quirky tidbit, some badges incorporated an element of playful mischief, such as those depicting a vulva badge found at certain shrines. These were often humorous or fertility-related, indicating a lighter, more earthy side to medieval piety, challenging our modern assumptions about solemn religious devotion. It reminds us that medieval people had a sense of humor, even about sacred things. Imagine trying to explain that to a serious historian. Yes, well, the Pilgrims were very devout, but they also enjoyed a good laugh, especially about certain anatomical features. Historians still debate the specific role of women in pilgrimage and the collection of badges. While men certainly undertook journeys, women also traveled extensively, sometimes alone, sometimes with family. Were their badges different? Did they face unique challenges or hold particular significance for them? The evidence is often sparse, but the presence of smaller badges, or those suitable for sewing, suggests they were worn by women and children too. It's a wonderful thought. Imagining women pilgrims, strong and determined, their clothes adorned with the metallic proofs of their faith. You pass a small, ancient stone cross by the side of the road, its surface worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. A few humble offerings have been left at its base, a small stone, a few wild flowers. You notice a tiny, almost indistinguishable mark on the cross, perhaps an old pilgrim badge that has long since fused with the stone, worn down by time and the elements. It's a powerful reminder of the ephemeral nature of human life, but the enduring power of faith and the quiet marks we leave behind. The act of collecting badges wasn't just about religious devotion. It also reflected a burgeoning sense of medieval tourism and a desire for souvenirs from exotic locations. For many, pilgrimage was the only opportunity they would ever have to travel beyond their immediate surroundings, to see new lands and experience different cultures. The badges were a tangible reminder of these incredible adventures, a piece of the wider world brought back home. It's like bringing back a magnet for your fridge from every city you visit, but instead of a fridge, it's your cloak. The symbolism of the pilgrim's staff and scrip pouch often went hand in hand with the badges. The staff provided support and protection, the scrip held sustenance, and the badges confirmed the journey. Together, they formed the essential toolkit of the medieval traveler, each item holding both practical and symbolic meaning. It was the complete medieval pilgrimage starter pack, everything you needed for a spiritually enriching, yet incredibly uncomfortable journey. You think about the countless hands that have touched these badges over the centuries, the hands that cast them, the hands that sold them, the hands that wore them, and the hands that lost them. Each touch, each interaction, imbued them with a little more history, a little more meaning. They are small objects that carry immense stories, silent witnesses to a forgotten past. As the morning sun climbs higher, illuminating the landscape in brilliant light, you feel a deep sense of connection to this ancient path. The gentle sounds of the awakening world surround you, the rustle of leaves, the distant bleating of sheep, the murmur of conversation from other pilgrims. You walk on, your steps falling into a steady, rhythmic cadence, your mind filled with images of those humble, yet powerful, pilgrim badges. They are more than just metal. They are echoes of faith, symbols of endurance, and quiet whispers from a time long past. And with that thought, a profound and gentle drowsiness begins to wash over you, easing you into a deep and peaceful rest. The sun now rides high in the sky, casting short, sharp shadows. The air is warm, almost thick with the scent of dry earth and sun-baked foliage. You pause at the crest of a small hill, looking out over the rolling landscape. Fields of green stretch out before you, dotted with distant farmhouses and the occasional cluster of trees. The path ahead seems to shimmer in the heat, an endless ribbon winding its way towards the horizon. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on your face, and prepare to descend into the valley below. The phenomenon of miraculous healing at shrines was a major driver of pilgrimage, and by extension, the demand for pilgrim badges. Many people undertook journeys, specifically seeking a cure for an illness or disability, believing in the saint's power to intercede on their behalf. If a cure was indeed perceived, the badge became a powerful ex voto, a public display of gratitude, and a testament to the saint's efficacy. It was like getting a medical miracle, and then getting a thank you sticker that everyone could see. Much more public than a modern hospital discharge. One mainstream historical fact is that pilgrim badges were often worn on the hat or cloak, making them highly visible. This prominent display was part of their function as a public declaration of your pilgrimage and your devotion. You weren't supposed to hide your light under a bushel, or your badge under your tunic. You wanted everyone to know you'd walked all the way to Rome, or Canterbury, or Santiago, even if your feet were screaming in protest. A quirky tidbit. Some badges were designed to be almost like miniature reliquaries themselves, sometimes containing a tiny cavity for a piece of cloth that had touched a saint's tomb, or a fragment of earth from a holy site. These contact relics were believed to carry a portion of the sacred power of the original. Imagine having a little bit of holy dirt in your pocket, just in case you needed a divine boost. It's like a medieval good luck charm, but with actual religious clout. Probably smelled a bit earthy, too. Historians still debate the extent to which the demand for pilgrim badges led to a decline in the quality of the badges over time. As production ramped up to meet demand, did shortcuts become more common? Were the designs less intricate, the metal less pure? While many beautiful and intricate badges exist, the sheer volume of crudely made ones suggests a shift towards mass production over artisanal quality. It's a bit like modern consumerism. Sometimes, quantity wins over quality. You recall a particularly muddy stretch of road from yesterday, where your boots sank deep with every step. It's easy to romanticize pilgrimage, but the reality was often gritty, uncomfortable, and frankly, quite messy. The pilgrims who wore these badges weren't pampered tourists. They were hardy individuals, willing to endure significant hardship for their faith. Their badges were earned, not just bought. They were the original Tough Mudder participants, but without the entry fee and with more spiritual benefits. The act of pilgrimage itself was often linked to the concept of penance. Forgiveness for sins, whether minor transgressions or more serious offenses, could often be achieved through undertaking a pilgrimage. The badge served as visible proof that the penance had been performed, a physical sign of spiritual cleansing. It was like getting a medieval receipt for your soul's redemption. Paid in full, with blisters and a lead badge, the economic impact of pilgrimage wasn't limited to the badge makers. Inns, taverns, blacksmiths, guides, and even local farmers all benefited from the steady flow of pilgrims. The badges were just one small piece of a much larger economic ecosystem that sprang up along the pilgrimage routes. It was a bustling, medieval version of a service economy, built on faith and foot traffic. You imagine the feeling of walking into a bustling town after days on a lonely road. The noise, the smells, the sheer vibrant life of it all. And then, the sight of other pilgrims, their badges glinting, a silent recognition of shared experience. It created a sense of community, a silent fraternity of the road.
Hey, you've got a Canterbury badge!
I was there last year. Boy, that was a walk, wasn't it? As the afternoon sun begins its slow descent, casting long, golden shadows across the fields, you feel a gentle fatigue settling in. The rhythmic crunch of your feet on the gravel road is almost hypnotic. You scan the horizon, looking for a suitable place to rest for the night, a spot where the wind won't bite too hard and the ground feels relatively soft. The world around you slowly softens, losing its harsh edges as daylight fades. You imagine the medieval pilgrims, just like you, feeling this same gentle wariness, their minds perhaps drifting to thoughts of home, or the next shrine, or simply a good night's sleep. The badges, small and unassuming, a heavy reminder of their journey, a whispered promise of stories told upon return. A profound sense of quiet washes over you, ushering in the gentle embrace of the coming night. The last vestiges of twilight fade, and the sky overhead becomes a deep, inky black, scattered with countless stars. The air is cool and still, carrying the scent of damp earth and the distant hum of unseen night creatures. You find a comfortable spot beneath the vast canopy of an ancient oak tree, its branches whispering softly in the gentle breeze. The quiet sounds of the night, the chirping of crickets, the rustle of leaves, the soft, rhythmic breathing of your fellow pilgrims, create a peaceful symphony. It's a moment of profound tranquility, a time to let your mind drift into the silent echoes of the past. The symbolism of specific saints on pilgrim badges was incredibly important. For example, badges depicting Saint James Santiago with his staff and scallop shell clearly indicated a pilgrimage to his shrine in Compostela. Badges showing Saint Thomas Becket often depicted his martyrdom or his archbishop's cross, directly linking them to Canterbury. This visual shorthand allowed anyone to instantly recognize the pilgrimage undertaken and the saint revered. It was like a medieval who's who of holiness, condensed onto a small piece of metal. Ah yes, that's Bartholomew. He clearly went to Canterbury, probably complained about the food the whole way. One mainstream historical fact is that while most pilgrim badges were made of inexpensive lead or tin, some wealthier pilgrims commissioned badges in more precious metals like silver or even gilded bronze. These rarer, more elaborate badges served as even stronger status symbols, showcasing not only the pilgrims' devotion, but also their wealth and social standing. Imagine arriving back in your village with a silver badge, sparkling in the sun. Instant medieval celebrity status. A quirky tidbit: some badges were actually made to be worn as jewelry, integrated into necklaces, rings, or brooches. This suggests that for some, the badges transcended their immediate devotional purpose and became cherished adornments, worn as a daily reminder of their sacred journey. It's like turning your favorite concert ticket stub into a pendant. A bit unconventional, but deeply personal. Historians still debate the specific methods used to create the detailed designs on the molds for these badges. Were they carved by highly skilled engravers, or were simpler methods used for mass production? The intricate detail on some badges suggests considerable artistic skill, while the crudeness of others points to a more rushed, utilitarian approach. It's a mystery wrapped in an enigma, with a side of molten lead. You recall seeing an old image, perhaps a woodcut, of a medieval saint with an almost absurd number of pilgrim badges adorning their robes. While likely an artistic exaggeration, it highlights the aspirational aspect of collecting these tokens. To have journeyed far and wide, to have visited countless shrines, was a sign of immense piety and dedication. It was the medieval equivalent of having every single achievement unlocked in a video game. But the game was real life and involved a lot more walking. The phenomenon of holy wells and their associated badges also adds to the picture. Many pilgrimage sites incorporated natural features, like springs or wells, believed to have healing properties. Badges from these sites might depict the well itself, or a specific saint associated with its waters. It blurred the lines between natural wonder and divine intervention, all captured on a small piece of metal.
This water cured my gout,
and all I had to do was drink it and buy this lovely badge. The very act of carrying a badge could be seen as a form of portable protection, beyond the spiritual blessings. Some pilgrims might have believed the image of a powerful saint on their badge literally shielded them from harm on the dangerous roads. It was a tangible piece of their faith, a small shield against bandits, disease, and bad weather. It's like wearing a superhero emblem, but for actual spiritual superpowers. You think about the sheer faith that drove people to undertake these journeys, often leaving behind their homes, families, and livelihoods for months or even years. The badges, humble as they were a small token of that immense faith, a tangible representation of their hopes and prayers. They were a whisper of devotion, carried on the wind. As the quiet of night deepens, and the stars seem to draw closer, you feel a profound sense of peace. The gentle rustle of leaves above you, and the soft sounds of sleeping pilgrims create a comforting hush. You lie there, listening to the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing, and imagine the medieval world, alive with faith, journey, and the subtle glint of countless pilgrim badges, each one a silent story waiting to be told. A deep, gentle drowsiness washes over you, easing you into a state of profound and peaceful rest, where dreams of ancient paths and sacred symbols intertwine. For the first light of dawn begins to pierce the darkness, painting the eastern horizon in soft, pearlescent hues. The air is cool and crisp, carrying the damp scent of morning dew. You stir, your body gradually loosening from its night's rest. A gentle chorus of birdsong begins, a sweet symphony greeting the new day. Other pilgrims are already beginning to rise, their movements quiet and deliberate. The promise of another day on the road calling them back to their journey. You stretch, a deep breath filling your lungs, and prepare to face the path ahead. The concept of pilgrim tolls and fees was another significant aspect of the medieval pilgrimage economy. While shrines offered spiritual benefits freely, the journey itself was often expensive. Tolls for bridges, ferries, and even entry to certain towns, along with fees for lodging and food, added up. The pilgrim badges, while not directly related to these fees, were part of the broader financial ecosystem surrounding pilgrimage, demonstrating the pilgrims' engagement with this economy. It was like paying for all the little amenities on your trip, from the airport lounge to the overpriced bottle of water. One mainstream historical fact is that the phenomenon of pilgrim badges declined significantly with the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century. The Reformation often challenged the veneration of saints and relics, and the concept of pilgrimage itself, leading to a decreased demand for these devotional objects. It was a major shift in religious practice that effectively closed down the medieval badge industry. Imagine a whole industry disappearing almost overnight, like Blockbuster after Netflix. A quirky tidbit. Some badges were designed to be incredibly small and discreet, perhaps for those who wished to carry their devotion more privately, or for those who simply preferred smaller tokens. While many badges were meant for open display, these miniature versions suggest a more personal, intimate connection to the pilgrimage experience. It's like having a tiny, secret tattoo instead of a giant sleeve. Your piety, but on your terms. Historians still debate the extent to which the production of counterfeit badges was a widespread problem. Given the lucrative nature of the market, it's highly probable that some unscrupulous individuals produced fake badges, claiming they were from famous shrines. How were these counterfeits dealt with? Was there any legal recourse for pilgrims who felt cheated? It's a fascinating glimpse into medieval consumer protection, or lack thereof. This badge of St. Peter looks suspiciously like a flattened piece of old cutlery.
I demand a refund.
You recall a story of a particularly devout pilgrim who, unable to afford a metal badge, carved a crude one from wood or bone. While not as durable, it served the same purpose for him, a testament to his journey and his faith. This reminds you that the spirit of pilgrimage was not exclusive to those with money. It was a path open to all, in whatever form they could afford to mark it. It was the original DIY souvenir, made with love and desperation. The visual diversity of pilgrim badges also reflected regional artistic styles. A badge from Northern Europe might have a different aesthetic and feel than one from Italy or Spain, showcasing the distinct artistic traditions that flourished across the continent. These small objects are tiny pieces of medieval art history, condensed into portable form. It's like a micro-museum of medieval aesthetics. The badges sometimes depicted scenes of the pilgrimage journey itself, beyond just the saint or shrine. You might find a badge showing a pilgrim walking with a staff, or a boat crossing a body of water. These narrative elements added another layer of personal connection, allowing the pilgrim to identify even more closely with the visual story being told. It was like a medieval travelogue, but on a badge. You think about the countless footsteps that have worn down these ancient roads, the whispers of prayers carried on the wind, the hopes and fears of millions of pilgrims. The badges, in their quiet way, are the last echoes of those journeys, small pieces of metal that hold immense stories of human endeavor and unwavering faith. They are more than just objects. They are fragments of a deeply human experience. As the afternoon sun begins its slow descent, painting the landscape in long, golden shadows, you feel a gentle fatigue settling in. The rhythmic crunch of your feet on the gravel road is almost hypnotic. You scan the horizon, looking for a suitable place to rest for the night, a spot where the wind won't bite too hard, and the ground feels relatively soft. The world around you slowly softens, losing its harsh edges as daylight fades. You imagine the medieval pilgrims, just like you, feeling this same gentle wariness, their minds perhaps drifting to thoughts of home, or the next shrine, or simply a good night's sleep. The badges, small and unassuming, a heavy reminder of their journey, a whispered promise of stories told upon return. A profound sense of quiet washes over you, ushering in the gentle embrace of the coming night. 5. The last light of the setting sun paints the western sky in dramatic streaks of fiery orange and deep violet, slowly fading into the soft grey of twilight. The air is cool and still, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke. You find a sheltered hollow, the ground surprisingly soft beneath your weary body. The sounds of the day begin to quiet, replaced by the gentle chirping of crickets and the rustle of leaves in the growing darkness. It's a time for quiet reflection, for letting your mind drift with the ancient currents of the world. The symbolism of specific objects appearing on pilgrim badges was often layered and complex. Beyond the obvious depiction of a saint or shrine, elements like animals, plants, or specific tools could carry deeper spiritual or cultural meaning. For instance, a rooster might symbolize vigilance or the Passion of Christ, while a rose could represent the Virgin Mary. These details transformed a simple badge into a rich tapestry of medieval symbolism, inviting contemplation and deeper understanding. It was like a medieval emoji, but with way more religious significance and much less likelihood of being misinterpreted by your friends. One mainstream historical fact is that pilgrim badges were sometimes used as legal proof in medieval courts. If a person needed to prove they had completed a pilgrimage, especially as a form of penance, the badge served as crucial evidence. This legal function underscores how deeply integrated pilgrimage and its associated objects were into the fabric of medieval society, extending beyond mere religious devotion. Imagine trying to explain to a modern judge that your "I went to Vegas" t-shirt proves you were there. Different times indeed. A quirky tidbit: some badges were designed with a small loop or hole at the top. specifically for stringing them together or attaching them to a rosary. This suggests that pilgrims sometimes collected multiple badges and wished to display them as a cohesive collection, or incorporate them into their daily prayer routines. It was like a medieval version of a charm bracelet, each charm representing a different spiritual milestone, and probably much more prone to jingling loudly during quiet moments of prayer. Historians still debate the specific methods of funding pilgrim shrines and the role that badge sales played in their finances. While donations from pilgrims and wealthy patrons were crucial, the income generated from the sale of badges must have been significant, especially for the most popular sites. Was this income primarily used for maintenance or for larger ecclesiastical projects? It's a medieval accounting mystery, a bit like trying to figure out where all your money went after a long trip, probably on souvenirs. You recall a story of a pilgrim who, having lost all his earthly possessions to bandits, clung only to his cherished pilgrim badge, believing it held the essence of his journey and his salvation. It speaks to the profound emotional and spiritual attachment these objects could evoke, transcending their material worth. It was a tiny piece of metal that meant everything, a tangible link to something far greater than himself. It was his medieval security blanket, but made of lead. The sheer durability of lead as a material meant that many of these badges have survived through the centuries, offering archaeologists and historians a direct window into medieval popular culture and religious practice. Without these unassuming objects, much of our understanding of everyday medieval piety would be lost. They are humble messengers from a distant past, whispering tales of faith and journey. The badges sometimes acted as a form of visual propaganda for the shrines themselves. By displaying the unique iconography of a particular site, pilgrims implicitly promoted its fame and miraculous power, encouraging others to undertake the journey. It was medieval advertising, but instead of billboards, it was people's chests, and much more effective, because you knew the person wearing it had actually been there. You think about the contrast between the grandeur of the pilgrimage sites, the soaring cathedrals, the magnificent relics, and the humble simplicity of the badges that commemorated them. It speaks to the democratic nature of medieval faith, where even the poorest could participate in these grand spiritual endeavors and carry away a tangible piece of the experience. It was a beautiful balance between the sublime and the simple. As the quiet of night deepens and the stars seem to twinkle more brightly above, you feel a profound sense of peace. The gentle rustle of leaves around you and the soft sounds of sleeping pilgrims create a comforting hush. You lie there, listening to the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing, and imagine the medieval world, alive with faith, journey, and the subtle glint of countless pilgrim badges, each one a silent story waiting to be told. A deep, gentle drowsiness washes over you, easing you into a state of profound and peaceful rest, where dreams of ancient paths and sacred symbols intertwine. 6. A thin, almost imperceptible sliver of pale light begins to appear on the horizon, signaling the very first breath of a new day. The air is cool and still, carrying the damp scent of earth and the distant sound of a crow calling. You stir, your body protesting gently as you begin to move. A faint mist hangs low over the fields, slowly dissipating as the light strengthens. Other pilgrims are also beginning to rouse, their movements quiet and deliberate, the promise of a new day calling them back to the road. You stretch, a deep breath filling your lungs, and prepare to face the path ahead. The practice of veneration of relics was a cornerstone of medieval Catholicism and the primary reason for most pilgrimages. A relic, whether a bone fragment of a saint, a piece of their clothing, or an object associated with their life, was believed to be imbued with spiritual power. Pilgrim badges, by depicting these saints or the sites where their relics lay, served as a symbolic connection to this sacred power even for those who couldn't touch the actual relic. It was like bringing a piece of the sacred aura home with you, a spiritual takeaway. One mainstream historical fact is that pilgrim badges were often worn or attached to garments in ways that left distinct marks or pinholes, which archaeologists can sometimes identify on surviving medieval clothing fragments. This provides direct evidence of how and where these badges were displayed, giving us a physical link to their use. Imagine if future archaeologists could tell where you pinned your concert tickets just by looking at your old jacket. Very precise, very cool. A quirky tidbit, some badges were designed to be humorous or even satirical, gently poking fun at aspects of pilgrimage or contemporary society. While not as common as devotional badges, these examples reveal a more light-hearted side to medieval life and an ability to find humor even in religious contexts. Imagine a badge of a pilgrim looking utterly exhausted, with a speech bubble saying, "Are we there yet?" Probably not historically accurate, but one can dream. Historians still debate the precise relationship between the pilgrim badges and the broader economy of medieval guilds and craftsmen. Were badge makers part of a specific guild, or were they more independent artisans? How did they acquire the skills and the materials necessary for mass production? This sheds light on the organization of medieval labor and the specialization that grew around religious tourism. It's like trying to figure out if your local artisanal coffee shop is part of a larger chain or truly independent. You recall a story of a young man embarking on his first pilgrimage, his face a mixture of excitement and trepidation. His mother, before he left, had carefully pinned a small, well-worn badge to his cloak, one that had belonged to his grandfather, a veteran of many journeys. It was a gesture of protection, a passing down of faith and experience, a tangible link across generations. It's a bit like giving someone your lucky coin, but with way more historical and spiritual weight. The badges also served as a form of thank you note or acknowledgement from the shrine to the pilgrim. By purchasing and wearing a badge, the pilgrim not only commemorated their journey, but also implicitly contributed to the upkeep and glory of the shrine itself. It was a reciprocal relationship, a silent agreement between the sacred site and the individual seeking its blessings. The cultural impact of pilgrim badges extended to folklore and local traditions. In some regions, specific badges were believed to have particular powers, such as warding off evil spirits or bringing good fortune. This blend of popular belief and religious veneration highlights the rich tapestry of medieval magical thinking and folk Catholicism. It was like having a lucky charm that was also spiritually significant.
Double duty.
You think about the countless faces, now long turned to dust, who once wore these very badges. Their hopes, their fears, their moments of joy and profound spiritual connection, all somehow contained within these small, unassuming pieces of metal. They are a silent testament to the enduring human need for meaning, for connection, and for something tangible to hold onto in a world often filled with uncertainty. As the morning sun begins to climb higher, its warmth spreading across the landscape, you feel a deep sense of connection to this ancient path. The gentle sounds of the awakening world surround you, the rustle of leaves, the distant bleating of sheep, the murmur of conversation from other pilgrims. You walk on, your steps falling into a steady, rhythmic cadence, your mind filled with images of those humble, yet powerful, pilgrim badges. They are more than just metal, they are echoes of faith, symbols of endurance, and quiet whispers from a time long past. And with that thought, a profound and gentle drowsiness begins to wash over you, easing you into a deep and peaceful rest. 7 The midday sun hangs high, casting a brilliant light across the open fields. The air is warm and dry, carrying the faint scent of sun-baked earth. You pause for a moment, seeking the shade of a lone, gnarled oak tree, its ancient branches offering a welcome respite from the relentless sun. You take a long, slow drink from your water skin, feeling the cool liquid soothe your throat. The journey is a constant exercise in endurance, a test of spirit and body. You close your eyes for a moment, simply listening to the quiet hum of the world around you. The visual storytelling embedded in pilgrim badges was crucial in a largely illiterate society. These small objects communicated complex religious narratives, saintly lives, and miraculous events through easily understandable images. They served as a form of portable picture book, allowing anyone, regardless of their literacy level, to engage with the sacred stories. It was like a medieval comic strip, but with more devotion and less capes, probably. One mainstream historical fact is that the designs on pilgrim badges often included identifying marks for the shrine or the saint, such as initials or recognizable symbols. This made them instantly identifiable and prevented confusion, much like a modern logo. Imagine trying to identify a pilgrimage site without its specific badge. It would be like trying to guess a movie without seeing the title or a single character.
Very difficult.
A quirky tidbit. Some badges were so popular that their designs were copied and replicated across different regions, sometimes even inspiring local variations. This suggests a kind of medieval trend or fashion, where certain iconic badge designs gained widespread popularity beyond their original shrine. It's like when everyone starts wearing the same brand of sneakers, but instead of sneakers, it's lead. And instead of a brand, it's a saint. Historians still debate the specific methods of how pilgrims acquired knowledge about different shrines and their associated badges. Was it through word of mouth, through traveling preachers or minstrels? Or were there early forms of guidebooks that listed popular pilgrimage destinations and their unique souvenirs? The dissemination of this information was crucial for the popularity and widespread use of badges. It's a medieval marketing mystery, a bit like trying to figure out how old viral videos spread before the internet. You pass a group of pilgrims gathered around a small spring, filling their water skins and washing their faces. One man proudly displays a badge depicting a ship, its sails billowing. You imagine his journey across treacherous seas, perhaps to the Holy Land or to Rome. The badge is more than just a souvenir. It's a tiny vessel carrying the memory of his voyage, a testament to the risks he undertook and the wonders he saw. It's like a medieval Instagram post, but instead of a filtered photo, it's a piece of metal. The creation of pilgrim badges supported a thriving artisanal economy, not just the casters and engravers, but also those who mined the lead, transported the materials, and even those who prepared the molds. It was a complex network of skilled labor, all driven by the spiritual and economic demands of pilgrimage. It truly was an industry, albeit one that operated without unions or health and safety regulations. The badges sometimes depicted a kind of spiritual journey map, showing elements of the path or the symbolic milestones of the pilgrimage. This allowed pilgrims to mentally retrace their steps and recall the challenges and blessings of their travels. It was a miniature, personal journey log etched in metal, and much more durable than any paper map you might have had. You think about the tactile experience of these badges, the cool weight of the lead in your hand, the slightly rough edges from the casting process, the smooth patina worn by countless touches. They were objects meant to be held, to be felt, to be a constant physical reminder of a spiritual journey. They were grounded in the physical reality of the medieval world, yet pointed towards something beyond. As the afternoon sun begins its slow descent, painting the landscape in long, golden shadows, you feel a gentle fatigue settling in. The rhythmic crunch of your feet on the gravel road is almost hypnotic. You scan the horizon, looking for a suitable place to rest for the night, a spot where the wind won't bite too hard and the ground feels relatively soft. The world around you slowly softens, losing its harsh edges as daylight fades. You imagine the medieval pilgrims, just like you, feeling this same gentle wariness, their minds perhaps drifting to thoughts of home, or the next shrine, or simply a good night's sleep. The badges, small and unassuming, a heavy reminder of their journey, a whispered promise of stories told upon return. A profound sense of quiet washes over you, ushering in the gentle embrace of the coming night. 8. The last light of day has vanished, leaving the sky a deep, velvety black, studded with countless sparkling stars. The air is cool and still, carrying the damp scent of night and the distant murmur of a flowing stream. You find a comfortable hollow, nestled against a cluster of ancient trees, their branches creating a protective canopy above you. The quiet sounds of the night, the chirping of crickets, the rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, the soft, rhythmic breathing of your fellow pilgrims, create a peaceful symphony. It's a moment of profound tranquility, a time to let your mind drift into the silent echoes of the past. The collecting of pilgrim badges went beyond mere souvenir hunting for some. It became a genuine hobby, almost a form of medieval numismatics or vexillology. Pilgrims would amass large collections, proudly displaying them on their cloaks, hats, or even in special display cases upon their return home. This hobbyist aspect highlights a very human desire to collect, categorize, and display objects that hold personal significance, a trait that transcends time periods. It's like collecting stamps, but instead of postal history, it's pilgrimage history, and instead of paper, it's lead. One mainstream historical fact is that many pilgrim badges were produced relatively quickly and efficiently, using reusable molds. This allowed for rapid mass production, which was essential given the large numbers of pilgrims visiting popular shrines. The ability to churn out thousands of these items underscores the commercial savvy of medieval artisans and shrine administrators. It was a medieval assembly line, just without the actual assembly line. A quirky tidbit. Some badges depicted local flora or fauna associated with the shrine's region, making them even more unique and specific to that particular pilgrimage. You might find a badge with a specific type of flower, a local bird, or even a regional animal, adding a touch of natural beauty to the devotional object. It's like getting a souvenir that features the state bird, but with a lot more religious context. Yes, this badger on my badge is from the forest near St. Cuthbert's shrine. He was a very holy badger. Historians still debate the specific reasons why certain pilgrimage sites rose to greater prominence than others, leading to a higher demand for their badges. Was it the fame of the saint, the authenticity of the relics, the political patronage, or simply effective marketing by the shrine authorities? It's a complex interplay of factors, much like why some modern tourist destinations become more popular than others. Probably involved some medieval equivalent of influencer marketing. You recall a particularly poignant badge you once saw, very simple, depicting just a single, outstretched hand. It symbolized the hand of a healing saint, or perhaps the hand of a pilgrim reaching out for divine grace. Its simplicity made it incredibly powerful, conveying a universal human need for solace and intervention. It was a badge that spoke volumes without saying a word, a silent prayer etched in metal. The widespread use of badges also highlights the medieval concept of mobility and access. Despite the difficulties, people from all walks of life undertook pilgrimages, and the badges were a testament to this remarkable movement of people across the continent. They were a physical record of a highly mobile society, long before trains, planes, or automobiles. It puts your daily commute into perspective, doesn't it? The badges sometimes show signs of deliberate breakage or defacement, which can be mysterious. Was it an act of protest against the shrine, or a theological statement? Or perhaps just a pilgrim having a really bad day and taking it out on their souvenir? These damaged badges offer tantalizing glimpses into the more rebellious or frustrated aspects of medieval pilgrimage.
This pilgrimage is terrible.
Take tat, expensive badge. You think about the small, everyday moments of kindness and camaraderie that must have occurred on the pilgrimage roads, often unnoticed by the grand narratives of history. A shared meal, a helping hand, a comforting word. The badges, carried by these ordinary individuals, are a silent testament to the human spirit that persevered through hardship and found connection on the shared path. As the quiet of night deepens, and the stars seem to twinkle more brightly above, you feel a profound sense of peace. The gentle rustle of leaves around you and the soft sounds of sleeping pilgrims create a comforting hush. You lie there, listening to the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing, and imagine the medieval world, alive with faith, journey, and the subtle glint of countless pilgrim badges, each one a silent story waiting to be told. A deep, gentle drowsiness washes over you, easing you into a state of profound and peaceful rest, where dreams of ancient paths and sacred symbols intertwine. A pale sliver of moon hangs high in the pre-dawn sky, casting a faint, ethereal glow over the sleeping landscape. The air is cool and still, carrying the damp scent of night and the quiet whisper of unseen things. You stir, your body gradually loosening from its night's rest. The world around you slowly begins to awaken, a distant bird call breaking the profound silence. Other pilgrims are also beginning to rouse, their movements quiet and deliberate, the promise of a new day calling them back to the road. You stretch, a deep breath filling your lungs, and prepare to face the path ahead. The role of monasteries and hospices along pilgrimage routes was crucial, offering shelter, food, and medical care to weary travelers. Many of these institutions also sold or distributed pilgrim badges, further cementing their role in the pilgrimage economy. They were the medieval welcome centers, but with more prayer and fewer vending machines. Imagine arriving at a hospice, completely exhausted, and being greeted with warm broth and the opportunity to buy a badge. A perfect end to a long day. One mainstream historical fact is that pilgrim badges were often produced in specific workshops located very close to the major pilgrimage shrines. This ensured freshness and authenticity, and allowed the shrine authorities to maintain some control over the quality and iconography of their official souvenirs. It was a medieval version of made on site, guaranteeing you weren't buying some knockoff from a distant town. A quirky tidbit. Some badges were so popular that they became almost like medieval memes, with their images and symbols being incorporated into other forms of art, everyday objects, and even personal seals. This spread the iconography of the pilgrimage sites far beyond the pilgrims themselves, weaving it into the broader cultural fabric of the age. Imagine a saint's face appearing on a butter churn. Peak medieval popularity. Historians still debate the specific methods of how new badge designs were introduced and how older ones phased out. Was there a formal process of approval by the church or shrine authorities? Or did new designs emerge organically from popular demand and the creativity of the badge makers? It's a fascinating look at medieval design evolution, a slow, organic process driven by faith and commerce. It's like trying to figure out why certain fashion trends suddenly appear and then disappear, without any clear direction. You pass an older woman, her face deeply lined, but with eyes that sparkle with quiet determination. Pinned to her humble shawl is a single, worn badge, its details almost smooth from countless touches. It's a simple cross, but you know instinctively that it represents a profound journey, a lifetime of faith encapsulated in that small piece of metal. It's a silent testament to a journey of the soul, a quiet strength. The economic significance of pilgrimage extended far beyond the production of badges, driving trade in goods, services, and even money lending along the roads. The badges were a reflection of this larger economic boom, a visible byproduct of a burgeoning religious tourism industry. It was a medieval economic engine, powered by faith and the constant movement of people. The badges sometimes acted as a form of identity tag for returning pilgrims, making them recognizable as someone who had completed a significant religious undertaking. This could afford them certain social benefits, such as respect, special alms, or even preferential treatment in some communities. It was like having a special ID card that announced, "I'm a holy traveler, please give me a good seat." You think about the sheer endurance required to wear these badges year after year, perhaps throughout a lifetime of pilgrimages. They would have been exposed to sun, rain, and countless bumps and scrapes. The wear and tear on many of the surviving badges tells its own story of resilience, not just of the object, but of the person who wore it. They were built to last, just like the faith that inspired them. As the quiet of night deepens, and the first stars begin to appear in the darkening sky, you feel a profound sense of peace. The gentle rustle of leaves around you and the soft sounds of sleeping pilgrims create a comforting hush. You lie there, listening to the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing, and imagine the medieval world alive with faith, journey, and the subtle glint of countless pilgrim badges, each one a silent story waiting to be told. A deep, gentle drowsiness washes over you, easing you into a state of profound and peaceful rest, where dreams of ancient paths and sacred symbols intertwine. The profound darkness of night still holds the land, but a faint, almost imperceptible grey is beginning to soften the eastern horizon. The air is cool and still, carrying the damp scent of earth and the hushed silence of the pre-dawn hours. You stir, your body gradually loosening from its night's rest. The world around you slowly begins to awaken, a distant bird call breaking the profound quiet. Other pilgrims are also beginning to rouse, their movements quiet and deliberate, the promise of a new day calling them back to the road. You stretch, a deep breath filling your lungs, and prepare to face the path ahead. The repurposing and recycling of lead from old or damaged pilgrim badges was a common practice, highlighting the scarcity of resources and the practical nature of medieval society. Instead of simply discarding them, the metal could be melted down and reused to create new badges or other lead objects. This practical circular economy means that many badges from earlier periods might not have survived as individual artifacts, having been absorbed back into the material stream. It's the ultimate medieval recycling program, long before anyone thought of sorting their plastics. One mainstream historical fact is that the pilgrimage routes themselves often developed their own distinct subcultures with unique traditions, songs, and even slang. The badges were a visual manifestation of this shared culture, acting as symbols of belonging within the pilgrim community. It was like joining a medieval club, and your badge was your membership card, granting you access to shared experiences and a sense of camaraderie. A quirky tidbit: some badges have been found that depict fantastical or composite creatures, like a human head on an animal body, or a creature with multiple limbs. These might relate to local folklore, allegorical tales, or even a more playful, less overtly religious side of medieval popular culture. It's like finding a medieval cart character on your souvenir, something to bring a smile to a weary traveler's face. Is that a griffin riding a unicycle? Truly, this pilgrimage is stranger than I imagine. Historians still debate the specific impact of major historical events, such as wars, plagues, or political upheavals, on the popularity and nature of pilgrimage and badge production. Did these events lead to a surge in pilgrimage as people sought divine intervention? Or did they disrupt travel and diminish the practice? The relationship between societal challenges and religious devotion is often complex and varied. It's like trying to figure out why people still go to concerts during a global pandemic. Life finds a way. You recall a moment of profound beauty from your journey. A sunrise over a misty valley, the sound of monks chanting in a distant abbey, the quiet camaraderie shared with a stranger over a simple meal. These fleeting moments of grace, often experienced on the road, were as much a part of the pilgrimage as the spiritual destination itself. The badges, in their own way, were silent reminders of these moments, too. The badges were not just objects of personal devotion. They also served as visual narratives for collective memory. When a pilgrim returned, their badges became props in the stories they told, helping to illustrate their adventures and reinforce the power of the shrine. They were physical aids to storytelling, bringing the distant world of pilgrimage to life for those who stayed home. And then, I pulled out this badge of St. George, and the dragon just ran away! The phenomenon of pilgrimage, and the subsequent obsession with badges, speaks to a deeply human need to mark significant experiences, to create tangible reminders of journeys taken, and to connect with something larger than oneself. Whether it's a spiritual quest, a grand adventure, or simply a bucket list item, the desire for a souvenir, a tangible piece of the experience, remains timeless. You think about the humble nature of these leaden tokens, and how much history, faith, and human endeavor they represent. They are more than just metal. They are echoes of millions of footsteps, whispers of countless prayers, and silent witnesses to a world long past, yet still resonating in the quiet corners of our present. They remind us that even the simplest objects can hold immense meaning. As the pale light of dawn strengthens, illuminating the landscape in soft, gentle detail, you feel a profound sense of completion, a quiet satisfaction. The sounds of the awakening world surround you, the rustle of leaves, the distant bleating of sheep, the murmur of conversation from other pilgrims. You walk on, your steps falling into a steady, rhythmic cadence, your mind filled with images of those humble, yet powerful, pilgrim badges. They are more than just metal. They are echoes of faith, symbols of endurance, and quiet whispers from a time long past. And with that thought, a profound and gentle drowsiness washes over you, easing you into a deep and peaceful rest, where dreams of ancient paths and sacred symbols intertwine, bringing you a quiet, comforting sleep.